Look at a map of the ancient world. Egypt, the Maya in Mexico and Central America, the Aztecs, the Inca in Peru, the Khmer in Cambodia, the Chinese, the Nubian kingdoms of Sudan, ancient Japan, the Mississippian culture of North America, cultures separated by oceans and thousands of years and zero contact with each other. All of them built pyramids, not similar structures, not vaguely comparable monuments, the same fundamental shape, a broad base tapering upward to a point. Over and over again, on every inhabited continent, across thousands of years of human history, independent civilizations looked at the problem of building something monumental and arrived at the same answer. The question people always ask is whether this proves some ancient connection. A lost civilization? A shared origin? Alien architects? But those answers are more comfortable than the real one, because the real answer is stranger and more profound. The pyramid is not a mystery. It is an inevitability. And understanding why tells you something fundamental about what the human mind is and what it needs. Let's start with physics. If you want to build something tall, you have a problem. The taller you build, the more weight accumulates at the base. The more weight at the base, the more the structure wants to collapse outward. Every early civilization that tried to build upward with stone eventually encountered this problem. And the solution is always the same. Make the base wide, make each successive layer smaller than the one below it. Distribute the weight. The pyramid shape is not a cultural choice. It is the mathematical solution to the problem of building tall things out of heavy materials, without steel, without concrete, without the engineering knowledge that took thousands of years to develop. You want height? The pyramid gives you height. You want stability? The pyramid distributes load more efficiently than almost any other form you can build by hand with stone. Ancient builders in Egypt and Mexico and Cambodia didn't copy each other. They all hit the same wall, and they all found the same door. But this only explains why pyramids were structurally practical. It doesn't explain why they were built at all, why every civilization on Earth decided that the most important thing it could build with its greatest resources, its most skilled labor, and its most advanced technology was something that pointed at the sky. That question takes you somewhere much more interesting, because the answer is almost certainly mountains, or more precisely, the fact that mountains were the original sacred spaces of the human species. Long before anyone built anything, humans looked at mountains and understood them as places where the earth touched the sky, where the human world ended and whatever lay beyond it began. The peak of a mountain was where you went to be closer to whatever was above. Every major religion that developed in a mountainous region has a sacred peak at its center. Mount Sinai in the Abrahamic tradition, Mount Olympus in Greek religion, Mount Meru in Hindu and Buddhist cosmology, Kunlun Mountain in Chinese mythology. The pattern is so consistent across unconnected cultures that anthropologists have a term for it. Axis mundi, the world axis, the vertical line connecting earth to sky, the pole around which reality turns. It appears in the mythology of virtually every human culture that has ever been studied. Now imagine you are a civilization that lives on flat land, the Mesopotamians in the river plains of Iraq, the Maya in the lowland jungles of Central America, the Egyptians in the Nile Delta. You want a sacred mountain. You want that connection between earth and sky. You want a place where the divine can descend and the human can ascend. But there are no mountains. So, what do? You build one. The Mesopotamians built ziggurats, stepped temple platforms that created artificial elevation in a flat landscape. The Maya built stepped pyramids with temples at their summits. The Egyptians built the smooth-sided pyramid, the purest geometric expression of the mountain form, aligned with extraordinary precision to the cardinal directions and the stars. These were not tombs first. That is a later Western interpretation that stuck. They were mountains, constructed mountains, built to give the gods a place to land and built to give the living a place to climb toward whatever the living understood to be above them. And then there is the neuroscience. Because it turns out there may be something in the human visual system that respond specifically and deeply to this shape. Research into what psychologists call the peak shift effect shows that the brain responds more strongly to exaggerated versions of significant shapes than to the shapes themselves. A very tall, very pointed peak triggers a stronger response in the visual system than a gentle hill. The pyramid, with its sharp triangular profile and its pointed summit, is essentially a maximally exaggerated mountain. It looks more like what the brain expects a sacred peak to look like than any real mountain does. And studies of aesthetic preference consistently find that triangular, upward-pointing shapes are associated across cultures with concepts of power, divinity, and aspiration. Not because anyone taught this association, because the shape points upward. And up has meant something in the human nervous system for as long as there have been humans. High ground meant safety. High ground meant you could see the predators before they reached you. High ground meant the sky, which meant weather, which meant survival. The vertical dimension was loaded with meaning before the first word was ever spoken. This is why the pyramids of Egypt and the pyramids of Mexico look different in their details, but identical in their logic. The Egyptians wanted a smooth surface that would catch the sun and make the peak appear to glow. The Maya wanted a staircase that could be climbed, a physical path from the human world to the divine. The Nubians built taller, narrower pyramids than the Egyptians, sharper and more aggressive in profile. But all of them understood the same thing. Height was holy. The summit was the destination. And the triangle was the most efficient path from earth to sky. Here is the part that almost nobody mentions. We never stopped. The pyramid shape did not die with the ancient world. The most expensive piece of real estate in most modern cities sits in buildings that taper as they rise, glass and steel versions of the same form. The Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco, the Shard in London, the Flatiron Building, the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas. A literal glass pyramid standing in the Nevada desert that shoots a beam of light from its apex into the sky at night, which is, if you think about it, exactly what the ancient Egyptians were trying to achieve with their pyramid capstones covered in gold. We are still building pyramids. We just call them skyscrapers and hotels and landmarks, and we no longer remember why we keep returning to the same shape. But the shape remembers. Every civilization that has ever tried to say something important with architecture has eventually arrived here. A broad base, a narrowing ascent, a point aimed at whatever is above. The pyramid is not an ancient mystery. It is the most honest thing the human species has ever built. A shape that says, in a language older than any spoken word, that we know we are here, we know something is above us, and we never stopped trying to reach it.